everyone. Here we will discuss about rural sociology, a scope of rural sociology and different topics associated with rural sociology, importance of rural sociology, difference between village and urban areas and rural urban continuum, and we will discuss about green revolution, impact of green revolution, rural leadership and land reform, and many topics regarding associated with sociology, rural sociology especially. Now, rural sociology is the society influenced by rural environment, and keeping this objective in mind, a detailed analysis of the rural social system is being done through various scientific research from the rural environment. With the emergence of rural sociology, it was also determined that this discipline would study not only the structural side of the rural social system, but also its dynamic side, functional aspect, rural structural aspect. Such aspect is called rural social organization. Both aspects are interrelated, structure as well as we will see the function of rural institutions. Rural social structure, function, social processes, rural social relations. The study of rural social problems and changes in the rural social system was considered as the subject matter of rural sociology. Smith, while discussing it, is very beautifully has written that rural probably refers to the systematic knowledge of social relationship of rurals. It would be more appropriate to refer under the heading social life, sociology of life of rural. Meaning and definition of rural sociology. From the literal point of view, rural sociology is made up of two words, rural and sociology. Thus we see that rural sociology in a broad sense is that branch of sociology which deals with rural social life. It is the scientific study of rural groups, rural social relations, or more precisely, the rural world. Many sociologists have tried to define rural sociology. Some of them are the following. Some of them told rural social organization is the study of social processes operating in rural society. If we analyze this definition of Champit, we will find that Champin has pointed out three important things in his definition. Here you will see that rural social organization in which attention is paid to a structural and functional side of the village. Here Champin also define about two aspects of rural sociology, structure and function. And second point is rural population, in which the population aspect of village, gender ratio, density and population distribution is studied. And third is social processes. First one is rural social organization, that is the structure and function, and second one is rural population, density of population, and third one is social process, in which the major organizational and disruptive social processes found in rural population are studied, such as cooperation, trust, adaptation, competition, conflict. Sanderson defines it is rural sociology and social modernization, writing that rural sociology is the sociology of life found in rural environment. It is clear from this definition, Dr. Sanderson, that the scientific study of the rural environment or the social life of people living in the village is called rural sociology. It is written that Afroze displays this book emphasized that the whole of sociology is a unity. Its basic fact and principle should generally be used carefully within the stated safe limit, which should not be forgotten. Some researchers studies those events and processes which are mostly inherent in the rural environment, or are confined only to those individuals who are engaged in agri-businesses. Such sociologist fact can be made everybody in the form of theory, rural sociology, which are cited from the study of rural social relationship. A.R. Desai, in his most important and prestigious work, Rural Sociology in India, has clarified the nature of rural sociology on the basis of its objective. Without presenting any one universal definition of rural sociology, Grape writes, the main objective of rural sociology is to make scientific, systematic and detailed study of its structure, function and objective tendencies of development, and on the basis of systematic study. Here I would like to tell you one thing. There is someone has written in rural sociology that the subject matter of rural sociology is the analysis of animal population as they occur in the rural environment, human being. It is written the rural sociology can be defined as a scientific study which studies rural human beings in the context of those groups. In other words, we can say that rural sociology is of rural social life. Sociology is even more clearly we can present in advanced point. Just look these points. Rural sociology is a branch of sociology. Rural sociology studies the people living in the rural environment. Rural sociology is mainly concerned with rural social organization, its structure, function and social pattern and processes. In a way, rural sociology is concerned with the study of all aspects of rural life. Rural sociology is more practical than sociology because it is related to the practical life of rural community. Origin and development of rural, so the study of rural society is a story of human civilization. Many ancient scholars have also studied rural societies, but they cannot be placed under the preview of any specific science under the influence of scientific basis. In the first part of the work, a systematic source book in rural sociology, edited by Peter Sorokin and Zimmerman and Galpin, the study of rural societies done by various scholars has been presented, but these studies are called rural sociology, cannot be named. As a result of this, the attention of various sociologists began to be drawn toward rural communities, and various aspects of rural communities were studied on a large scale. Rural sociology first originated in United States of America as a systematic science. From 1876, the study of rural sociology started in American universities. In fact, the period from 1890 to 1920 was a time of crisis for the rural society of America. This entire period is known as the age of exploitation. At this time, many problems had arisen in American rural society, from which it was necessary to get rid of. The price of land had increased to the extreme. Technological civilization had become painful. The ownership of the peasant was being lost, and the influence of religion and church, etc. The process of urbanization was getting stronger. Sims wrote in Element of Rural Sociology that the whole period was a period of decline of rural societies. Inspired by these circumstances, the attention of many social scientists began to be attracted toward these rural problems, and a comprehensive study of rural society and its problem was started in Chicago, Michigan, Columbia and many other universities. This effort of these sociologists became the foundation stone for the development of rural sociology. The real origin of rural sociology dates back to the beginning of the 20th century. In 1908, the President of America, Roosevelt, appointed Rural Life Commission under the chairmanship of Dean Bailey. This commission did field research work to study the various problems of rural life. And just see this, and just we have to point some basic information regarding rural sociology. Field of study of rural sociology, subject matter of rural sociology we will discuss here. After the great development of rural sociology in all the countries, this question has become very important, that what should be the field of study of rural sociology? That is, what are those subjects which the with which the study of rural sociology should relate itself. There is a difference of opinion among sociologists regarding the area and subject matter of rural sociology. Scholars have different perspectives about its subject area on many questions, such as rural sociology should be accepted as a branch of sociology or it should be given the status of a separate science. Rural sociology should confine Rural sociology should confine its study scope to rural studies, or it should extend to the comparative study of rural and urban life, their mutual relations and effect on each other, and such other studies. Rural sociology should maintain the status of a pure science, or it may also attain the status of an applied science. In rural sociology, only related picture of rural society should be presented by being objective, or contribution should be made in the form of a thinking plan to reconstruct rural life. These are the same of the questions on which there has been a difference of opinion among rural sociologists for a long time. But in spite of this, there are many such questions on which all sociologists are of the same opinion. Almost all sociologists have a unanimous opinion on the following question. All sociologists agree that the basic objective of rural sociology is to make a scientific, systematic and comprehensive study of the rural social system, its structure, function and trend of development. On the basis of these studies, rural sociology should formulate rules and principles about rural social life. All sociologists also agree that both rural and urban are two important aspects of social life. These two sides also interact with each other. All sociologists agree on this point. I accept the characteristics of rural social life and urban social life are different, so both these social lives should also be studied separately. We will mention here in the detail of field of study of rural sociology presented by some sociologists. Smith, in his work The Sociology of Rural Life, has explained the study area of rural sociology by dividing into three parts: population and rural social organization and institutional relationship of land business, social morphology and major social institution. And third point is social process. Actually, he mentioned about population, rural social organization and social process. In his work Social Structure in Rural Sociology by Stuart Chapin, 3 points included by Smith, namely population, rural social organization, social process, have been included in the study area of rural sociology. And Nelson classification is more important in this direction. Nelson, in her article Rural Sociology Dimension and Horizon, has mentioned the field of study of rural sociology. Propagation has clarified this study area by dividing it into 3 dimensions or 3 classes. A study of the relation of rural sentiments. Second one is comprehensive study related to time perspective. And third point is depth of study. A.R. Desai has clarified the field of study of rural sociology in a broader perspective, indirectly supporting Nelson's view. According to him, the study area of Samoa sociology include the study of rural social organization, social structure, trends of development and law of development. A study of rural, actually now we will see about Smith, Pin and Nelson. Desai have presented different idea about the village. The views of these sociologists determine the general direction about rural sociology. In order to clarify the dissemination of this subject, it is necessary that we can include the following subject in the study area of rural sociology. So we should look some characteristic in point wise. A study of rural community. Rural sociology include a study of rural community, and second point, a study of rural social structure. A study of rural social organization, that is structure and function, both. A study of rural social groups and subgroups, and a study of rural social processes. Various organizational and disruptive social processes means conflict, assimilation, cooperation, integration, adjustment, competition are also there. A study of rural social problem means land problem, means poverty, many problems. And a study of rural population, a study of rural change, rural social change due to urbanization and westernization, modernization, globalization. There are changes in rural social life. A study of rural social institution, a study of rural economic institution. Economic institution, although rural sociology does not study official institution, this work is of economic, but in its broadest form, the impact of farmer relation, agriculture and other occupation on rural life. A study of rural political institution, Panchayati Raj, a study of rural urban relationship. Zimmerman wrote the field of rural sociology, as one may take for its centralized notion is the effect of urbanization and ruralization on population and mechanization. A study of rural reconstruction. At present, most of the rural sociologists are in favor that the field of a study of rural sociology should not be limited to the theoretical study of rural life, but it should include various programs related to rural construction. These are the area or scope of subject matter of rural sociology. Now we will discuss about nature of rural sociology. Before narrating the scope of rural sociology, the question arises whether its content is scientific or not. On the basis, we can examine the nature of rural sociology. In order to obtain knowledge related to a particular subject, when we collect fact by scientific method, then such a study is called scientific study. Therefore, the basis of science is the scientific method, not the content. Therefore, before understanding the nature of rural sociology, it becomes necessary that we understand the meaning of scientific method properly. According to Lundberg, the scientific method involves systematic observation, classification, interpretation of fact. On the various stages of scientific method, Bernard writes that science can be defined by the main processes found under it. These are based on testing, verification, definition, classification, organization and guidance, which also include pointing to the future and putting them into the practice. Following are different stages of scientific method: construction of a topical, and second point, selection of instrument or tools of the questionnaire. Third one is fact observation and fact compilation. Fourth is to record, and fifth is classification, and sixth is generalization. In the view Auguste Comte, first one is observation, experimentation and comparison. And we can say in conclusion that in the rural sociology we can study scientifically, and we can observe, experiment as well as classify. Rural sociology as a science. From a scientific point of view, the following steps should be taken in the study of rural sociology: truthfulness of the nature of knowledge, its organization, its method, theory of formulation. As it is clear from the following description that rural sociology verifies all these four conditions. So, reliable knowledge is the first condition, and organization of knowledge, and sociology as a method, and it also necessary in science. However, the observation of physics are based on experiments and observation of sociology. The description and analysis what is rural sociology also studies the what is or should be. On the other side of such terms, we should study what is there, not should study what should be there in rural social life. And formation of theories. And now we are going to discuss importance of rural sociology. We just will see we will discuss the point of important point related to the topic, because video will be very big. So rural sociology studied rural society. Most of the world population is still settled in village. Therefore, the study of rural society is very important for us even in this age. Human society has been rural for thousands of years. Urban life has developed only for a few centuries. In fact, if seen, urban life is the beginning of a modern life. It is clear from this that all sociology so far is in a way a sociology of rural life. Nelson wrote the story of a man from a very short time ago is mostly the story of a rural man. Not only this, because the present era are most of the human beings have been living in a small village in all parts of the world, even in this time. Some of the big cities which have been built also have rural areas. Life itself was visible. Characteristics of civilian life were not developed in them. The whole life of the society was rural life. In fact, there is no development of urban life, and most of their life remain rural. Take for example the cities of Yoruba in Africa. Similarly, take Alexandria and other cities in the Middle East. Anderson also wrote in this subject that Baghdad or Tehran do not exhibit any urban life. Importance of rural sociology in India. The importance of rural sociology in India can be presented by these points. Village is the original source of Indian culture. Some special studies possible in Indian village. Most of the population of India is rural. Most of the population of India is rural. Even at present, 70% of the population in India is rural. That is why this country is called agricultural. Indian sociologist is rural sociology. India is an agricultural country. Whatever sociological studies we have done in India are in a way related to rural sociology. View of life and poverty. There is the rural society of India present the scene of poverty and under poverty in Indian village. And it is clear from the views of the above scholars that rural India is a state. In rural India is in a state of extreme poverty. We can understand the situation of the whole of India, because at 20% of India, 82% of India is settled in about 70% of Indian, this data is so old, 70% of Indian people resides in village. To handle this situation, we need rural sociology is extremely needed. Rural sociology is not a part of urban society. We have clarified that rural society is not a part of urban society. Rural life itself has its own problem. Rapidly changing rural society. Indian rural society is bleeding at a rapid pace. As a result of these changes, the rural society has changed so much that its ancient form has almost ended. In the context of rural reconstructions, the Indian Union has mentioned in its constitution itself. The following paragraph of the directive principle of a state policy is important. India is an agricultural country. The village here are the basic sources and the foundation stone of Indian culture. In such a situation if we say that India is a country of village, then it will not be an exaggeration. Such a large population solves the problem, and it can be imagined how important the science doing this work will happen. Rural sociologist Professor Desai has written that the rise and importance of rural sociology in India is a period of time. Our India from ancient time was divided into self-dependent rural units. This feature was naturally present in India. The foreign rule broke this beautiful system, the best quality of self-builder due to the influence of foreign rule, foreign civilization and culture. This zamindari system allowed the blood of the rural body to remain rise due to the fall in the primary condition of village. The social, cultural, religious and spiritual condition also disappeared and started sinking at a low level or even vanishing and getting at a low level. Rural India was surrounded by demons like illiteracy, hunger, unemployment, debt, drinking, litigation. In such circumstances, rural sociology was the only science whose rays of the light could be reached to the empty masses. In this regard, Professor Desai has also written the systematic study of rural social organization, and its structure and function and evaluation has become necessary not only after independence but also of opinion. In this way, in order to reorganize the disintegrated form of our rural structure and make it self-reliant, scientific study of the problem is very necessary. In view of India being a village-headed country, it is mandatory for every citizen to have knowledge of this scripture. Indian Planning Department, every officer engaged in the work of Indian planning, in particular every member of Planning Commission, must have knowledge of rural sociology. Most of the 5-year plan being made for the upliftment of rural India are implemented in the village. Community development programs, Indian community development program are directly related to village. This is very effective revolution in rural development. Panchayat Department of India, organization of Panchayat and Panchayat Samiti and Zilla Parishad is being done under democratic decentralization in India. The objective of this program is also to reorganize rural life. The zamindari system allowed, and now we will discuss about the next topic, that is rural and urban community. India is a country of village. Even today most of the population lives in village. Village is called a place where people live for a long period of time to fulfill their necessity of life, and we have to see the differences between rural and urban life. Meaning of village. Some scholars have tried to define village on the basis of total population and density of population. Generally, the place where 3,000 or less people reside is called village, but there are some villages in India whose population is more than 5,000. There are some villages which not only depends on agriculture but also earn their livelihood through their industries and other occupation. M.N. Srivastava has written, while expressing his view, a rural area is one where people are engaged in agriculture industry, that is, they do the primary production of goods with the help of nature. Landis said that world rural must have 3 things: direct dependence on nature, limited size, close and primary relationship. But Rand has discussed 2 grounds of rural: income or low density of population. In fact, there is no definite boundary line which separates the village from the city. In relation to this, McIver has written while clarifying his view that there is no such clear boundary line of division between between town and village, on the basis of which it can be told where the village ends and from where the city begins. The word rural urban do not only explain the geographical location but also the type of community life. So we can say this theory is rural urban continuum, from where rural area start, from where urban area end, or from where rural area end. No one can define it. There is less division of labor and most of the people are associated with agriculture and simple industries. Merrill and Eldridge. According to Merrill and Eldridge, rural community consists of institutions and individuals who are organized around a small center and participate in common natural interests. Now we will see the characteristic of rural communities. Characteristic of rural community, first is primary relationship, and second one is a small in size. Rural area is a small in size. Rural community is a small, that is, there is no excess of population in them. Low population density. The size of the rural community is not small, but the density of population is also low. Both is low. Density is also low and population is also low. Agriculture is the main occupation and nature-based living. And lack of division of labor and specialization. There is less division of labor in the rural community. They have knowledge of almost all the work related to their life. And importance of religion. The importance of religion is more important in rural community. Tradition and primacy. Importance of tradition and customs and folkways. In rural areas, the people here are unable to easily disregard the traditional belief, custom in the village. And illiteracy and fatalism. Even today, the outbreak of illiteracy and fatalism is clearly visible in the rural community. And lack of mobility is found in rural community. And homogeneity. There is homogeneity among people in rural community. And celebrate religion, business, custom, ideals, ethics and festival. Importance of public opinion. Public opinion is more important in the rural community due to the small size of community. Joint family system. The joint family system is especially known in India. Many generations of people live together in this type of family. And Jajmani system. Jajmani system is a wonderful feature of the Indian rural community. A unique relationship is found between different castes through this practice. Gram Panchayat has been a very ancient feature of Indian rural community. Low status of women. The status of women in the Indian rural community is low. There is lack of education among women. And these are the characteristics of rural society. Now we will discuss about urban society and city. Generally, city is called that whose population is more than 1 lakh. The size of such a community is usually large. Under this, people lead a changeable life in relation to this. But said that cities are those places which are relatively large, dense, and there are socially heterogeneous people living there. Three characteristics of the city are clear from both ideas: more population, high density, and heterogeneity. According to Kingsley Davis, the city is inhabited by people of more social differences. There is also an abundance of occupation. He also told that in the city, secondary relatives have primacy. Not all people know each other through direct relationship. Davis clarified his view and said that the density of population cannot be considered as the only important factor in the determining the city. And according to Wilcox, city means an area where the density of population per square mile is more than 1000 person and where agriculture is not done. And Hochschild consider an urban community as a unit where cheap and skilled labor is found. And now we will discuss about the feature of urban community or characteristics of urban community. Large in population, there is an excess of population. And heterogeneity, where in the rural city there are rural society, there is homogeneity, here is heterogeneity. Different occupation, in rural area only agriculture based occupation. And division of labor and specialization is available, but in rural area division of labor and specialization is very limited. And individualism and competition, in rural area there is no individualism and competition, lack of individualism. And secondary relationship, in rural society there is primary relationship. And Louis Mumford told that in the urban community, formality, pretensions, interest-based relation and formal rules prevail. Mobility, there is high mobility in urban area but low mobility in rural area. Decrease in the importance of religion in rural area, but there is importance of religion in rural area, and lack of importance in urban area, importance of religion. Logical approach, urban people are very logical, but there are also logical in rural area, but there are belief and religious system and tradition and customs are more highly pressurized in rural area. Local segregation in urban area, and in these places low income people have bungalows of high income and prestigious people in the outer area of the society where they reside. Formal social control is found in urban area, and in rural area informal social control is found. Higher status of women, the status of women in the urban community is good. And social problems, various type of social problems keep arising in the urban community, that is to say the city is the center of social problems. Slums, slum is major feature of urban community that is not found in rural area. Slum settlement often develop in cities. Comparison between rural and urban community. Rural and urban community are different in principle, but in practice they are so mixed that it seems difficult to point out their solution. There is hardly any community that is completely rural or urban. The reason for this is that many elements of the Indian urban community are found in the rural community, and many features of the rural community are also found in the urban community. From cultural point of view, also business, superstition, exorcist and rural dress are seen in the cities on one hand, and on the other hand, urban clothes, food, language and individualism etc. are seen in the village. In fact, the situation of rural-urban continuity, this situation is called rural-urban continuity, which I have discussed earlier, which is called rural-urban continuum. That is, the characteristics of cities are found in village and signs of village are visible in cities too. These two are not opposite communities but also separate fringes of a continuum. McIver Page in their book Society, Rural Urban Community, in comparison, three difficulties are discussed. Rural urban difference is a matter of degree. In fact, there is only language differences between village and town. No clear line of distinction can be drawn between them. McIver and Page have written this context, but there is not such clear differences between the two that it can be told where the city ends and where the village begins. There is no fixed direction. The main fold of environment within the city, one of the difficulties in the comparing the rural and urban community is that different environments are found in the city. Different characteristics are found in different places. People belonging to different caste, race, language, religion, sect, class and occupation are found in the cities. As a result, different environment arises in the city. Changing character of city and village. The rural and urban communities are not of permanent character but are of changing nature. The process of urbanization and industrialization, the culture, ethics, behavior and business of the cities have influenced and changed the village adjoining the city. Difference between rural and urban community. Different sociologists have discussed different based of difference between rural and urban community. Let us first discuss the difference. Point out Sorokin and Zimmerman has been discussed the differences between rural and urban community on the basis of occupation, environmental basis, on the basis of environment, and size of community, on the basis of size of community, density of population, on the basis of density of population. To say the density is relatively high, it means that per square kilometer area in the village people live less in the village than in the cities. Homogeneity and heterogeneity. Rurals are homogeneous and urbans are heterogeneous in population on the basis of social differentiation and stratification. And mobility, on the basis of mobility. Rurals are less mobility. Rurals have, in rural area there are less mobility, and in urban area mobility is fast. Arrangement of interaction, on the basis of interaction. And Sri Desai, A.R. Desai also discussed 9 bases of difference between rural and urban community. Business distinction, environmental differences, size differences of community, population density distinction, homogeneity and heterogeneity, social mobility differences, distinction related to the direction of migration, social differentiation and stratification, and differences in the method of social interaction. Richard D. Webb has clarified the difference between urban and rural community on the 5 grounds: status unknown, work division, social and economic differences, impersonal and formal social relation, desire and effort to get independent position in personal background. Apart from the view of above scholars, the difference between rural and urban community can be clarified in the following way. Contrast on the basis of environment and anonymity, one for all for one, and contrast on the basis of social stratification. Differences are found in the basis of social stratification in urban community. Contrast on the basis of economic life, and contrast on the basis of population, which earlier I have mentioned. Contrast on the basis of social relations, contrast on the basis of cultural life, and contrast on the basis of social control, and contrast on the basis of social mobility. These points you remember and discuss and write more and more. Your concept will be clear. There is a difference between village and urban life, but both are not at all different from each other. They are inextricably linked with each other. In fact, they seem to be two different forms of the same social system. Neither the village is fully self-supporting nor the city. It is practically not possible to find a complete city or village anywhere. Social change in rural India. Social change in village life. A.R. Desai identified 4 trends for the rural transformation. The transformation of the agrarian society from traditional substance based on society to market based profit oriented society with the use of modern urban technology from a scattered, loosely developed agriculture system to the national attempt to integrate into the economy as a whole. It is going through a period of transformation and formation. Its technologies base, economic structure, social institution, a structure which has been based on caste system and joint family. The most important role has been played by the state in them, Some such important factors can be calculated on the following basis. Attempt to cripple or eradicate certain section of the agricultural society and emergence of various society and institutions influenced by a closely related to urban influence in agricultural society. Along with these, the changing economic and political equation of the newly emerging peasant classes are also visible, which have important socio-economic political implication. The most important step taken by the state is adult suffrage. This single factor created a wave of change and made rural India socially and politically influential. Impact of education and mass media. The medium of education and mass communication brought important changes in the social system of rural India and took it forward on the path of modernization. In the atmosphere of widespread literacy, folk song, folk dance, puppet, etc. continue to be used as medium of education and formation, but after the advent of technology changes. Many new ideas for exchange and dissemination of information, communication, entertainment ideas. And green revolution and social consequences. The important parameter of the country's progress set after independence on that scale, the major agricultural revolution or the green revolution itself. When the country itself was starved of hunger and food storage in 1984, in the drought affected area of sub-Saharan Africa, it was a proud moment for India when it was announced to send 1 lakh tons of food grain for the purpose of providing relief. The whole world appreciated it with admiration. It was also important because a short time ago the position of India was more or less to spread its hand in the field of food production. All this was possible due to the positive thinking and policies of the government, from the working farmer of the country, from the agricultural scientists working day and night to lead the country in the path of development, from the workers and laborers engaged in the development, and most importantly from the determination power of the country, which created the strength to get the country from a food deficit important country to a rich food producing exporting country. Although achieving this goal is important, but at the same time the objective of making the country at par with developed country in the consumption of food, fat, sugar, vegetables and other food items was also in front. The green revolution in a new era in agriculture relation, while on the one hand production increase on large agriculture holding, on the other hand economic inequality also increased between a smallholder farmer, agricultural laborers and large farmer. In many areas of the country there was an increase in the number of present proletariat. The Bhumihin began to organize, and in response to this Bhumihan bars organization also organized themselves. Due to this, the migration of landless farmers and laborers to land-rich, high productivity area also started on a large scale. Migration of agricultural labor from Bihar and eastern Uttar Pradesh etc. to Punjab and Haryana can be placed under this category. As a result of green revolution, some new sovereign castes came into existence on a very large scale. This happened especially in the mid-level backward caste. With improvement agriculture, they now came up a lot due to their prosperity in the local caste system. Sociologists and social anthropologists believe that the socially backward caste benefited more from land reform in the changing environment as a result of green revolution. The traditional landless scheduled caste could not take much benefit from these. These backward castes were more intelligent and strong farmers. So when it came time to increase the yield with the use of land reforms and scientific technology, they took full advantage of this opportunity. They were already numerically powerful lacking only the status equal to that of upper caste in the social system, which they were gradually improving through Sanskritization. Jat of Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh, Ahir, Kumir, Kurmis, Gujjar of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Marathas and of Maharashtra, Patel and Patidar of Gujarat, Kamar and Reddy of Andhra Pradesh, Lingayat and Vakkalinga of Karnataka and some of other farmer castes are an example of this category. These castes going toward grading were completely successful in taking advantage of green revolution. Through cash crop and commercial farming, not only did these groups acquire movable and immovable property in rural area, but they also made substantial gain in terms of property in the surrounding urban area. Green revolution played an important role in the changing social environment in different parts of the country. Under the Green Revolution, new technology, economic exchange, institutional finance, use of advanced seeds and plants, little English knowledge, a modern thinking, etc. were many such reasons which pushed the old generation back a bit. Due to this new thinking of new generation and better and a stronger participation, decision making and process came to the forward. Due to the Green Revolution, new market forced emerged for the sale of the cash crop, due to which the old Jajmani system was greatly affected. The relation between the traditional Jajmani and working class changed greatly. Land reform and its social consequences. Now we will discuss about land reforms and social consequences. Green Revolution, land reform is very important for the IAS, PCS as well as competitive point of view and academic point of view. Land reform refers the redistribution of surplus land decided on the ceiling on cultivable holding for small farmers and landless. It was taken view of the workers from a broader perspective. Land reform means not only the redistribution of land but also the development of institutions related to land, reform and farming. Under this, loan cooperative for tenancy, farming, education related to farming, marketing and advisory services were also included. By Gunnar Myrdal in his book Asian Drama, it is stated, land reform is a planned and institutional reorganization between the individual and the land. No reorganization of land ownership and tenancy can be successful unless it is planned for policy. Should not be made. Looking at the land reform in social and economic context, there is also a need for mechanization in it. Since the Congress government after independence was committed to bring about a structural change in the field of agriculture, therefore a committee was formed under the chairmanship of Jawaharlal Nehru, whose recommendations were implemented in the reform program in the field of agriculture. Some of the main recommendations were as follows. All the middlemen between the state and the cultivator should be removed by the removing all the brokers and middlemen. There should be a concept of cooperative in their place which has no interest of its own in the middle. Land should be developed as a source of employment, and acquisition of land beyond this maximum limit through village cooperative, it should be done. Small holdings should be increased as well as their further shortening should be stopped. When the plan program were carried out according to the suggestion of planning commission, many suggestions were given by the commission to different states. Improvement in land tenure, land ceiling, elimination of middlemen, consolidation of holdings, maintaining systematic record of land. In his important study related to land, P.C. Joshi said that instead of the interest of agricultural farmers, land reform programs are often working for the interest of land pressure group. As a result of land reform, such group in the village area is big land owner, rich peasant and tenant big above all interest of those landlords who have grouped the land under their home, farm or individual farming, evicted tenants from their land. This has happened different ways in different states. Rich peasants with tenants with whom they live really big and they are also financially prosperous. Inferior tenants. This is the group of most affected farmers with a small holding. Despite land reform, there has been no significant difference in their condition. There is no difference in their position in the right of tenancy on the land and in the profit on it. Voluntary tenants at will. Tenant at will and agricultural labor. At the bottom of this category, voluntary tenants are agricultural labor who share in agriculture produce, who have no right to the land, while the land is actually cultivated only where the population density is. What is more, they work on their own small holding as well as on the land of others, but without any benefit or security. Yogen Singh, after studying land reforms and Panchayati Raj program in some area of caste, eastern Uttar Pradesh, but some aspect of the current rural power equation. Upper caste such as Thakur, Brahmin, Bhumihar, former landlords and the class of money lenders still have power. The struggle for power has started organizing the lower caste and groups as well. At the caste level now, these groups are also becoming participants in power. The village political system is still completely affected by the economic constraint and prosperity of different caste groups. The power balance of the power equation seems to be in favor of group which is financially strong in the village. K.L. Sharma has presented two directions of social mobility in his study of 6 villages of Rajasthan. Not only the agricultural laborers but also some old landlords have come down in class status. The newly emerged rich farming class is now emerging as a bourgeoisie class in place of the old landlords. Kotowski has also drawn attention to the increasing proletarianization among the village peasants. This is also evident from a study conducted between 1961 to 81. The share of farmer declined from 52% to 41%, while that agricultural labor increased from 17.2 to 25% new dominance due to Green Revolution and land reform. The rise of class has also taken place. Rise of new sovereign race, emerging of new dominant caste. In order to understand the process of social change in Indian agriculture society, it is necessary to understand about the dominant caste of landowners in rural India. Despite rapid industrialization, land ownership is still of basis of wealth, prestige and political power. Srinivas first mentioned the concept of dominant caste in the article Dominant Caste of Rampur Village, published in 1959 issue of American Ecologist. This out of the box dissertation presented a new insight about the process of changes taking place in Indian society. Since this, then many sociologists and social anthropologists have taken up the task of studying the various aspects of sovereignty in rural India. Srinivas has told that in order to be sovereign, it is necessary to have the he should have considerable amount of cultivable land in his possession. The number of people of that caste should be quite large. He should get some high and prestigious among the local areas. Land ownership has traditionally been confined to a small number of castes. And apart from this, the Green Revolution also raised the importance of cultivable land, as a result of which the attention of some traditional trading caste toward land ownership was also attracted, and they started buying land to become more and more landowner. Being more in number or prestigious does not make it sovereign. For that it is also necessary to have some new element like Western education, appointments of people of that caste in local administration and political power. This is the reason that some castes which were previously sovereign no longer remain so. Adult and now, due to the vast expansion of communication and transport, the dominance of the village level is not enough to make a caste sovereign. Rather, it is more important to have regional sovereignty to be sovereign. This social situation can also be understood in another way. A particular caste may dominate its village in terms of number of members, economic status and political influence. But if it is surrounded by holistic and angry caste from all sides in the village, then the village level dominance of that caste has no effect on prosperity. And taking advantage of many government and non-government schemes, many relatively lower castes adopted this profession on a large scale and in a very short time accumulated a lot of money and property, which also increased their political power. The example of Jatwa community of Agra can be given here, which American anthropologist Owen Lynch has also done a great study in his book The Politics of Untouchability. It is another thing that the occupation corrupted by the ritualistic approach are no longer out of reach of many upper caste and due to the forces of social liberalism and market in the last 4 or 5 decades. And these are the facts related to rural society. Those belonging to Lord race are hesitant to go through the entire curvature and accept the existence of Lord. The fundamental point of Srinivas here is that both the Prabhu group dominant caste place their sovereignty in the fact that they are part of the same race. I think most of the part have been discussed by Green Revolution as well as land reform. In the frightening competition to control all the members of the Lord caste do not personally get the power directly, but collectively they definitely get the power and also implement and use it. Thus the political process and economic development both at the microscopic and secondary meso level seem to be clearly bearing the seal of the sovereign caste concerned. And impact of now, so I think if you will look this and you will read carefully and you will listen carefully, you could understand about the Green Revolution as well as land reform system and nature of rural society and many institutions. If you are going to write any kind of question, it is interrelated with multi terms and multi-functional institution, multi-words you have to use. So you have to think multi-dimensional, multi-aspected. Then you can write answer in a appropriate manner. Thank you.